lot of Nintendo Switch games. There they are. And because the Switch has been out for so long, there's bound to be some bizarre games on this console. So I put together 10 categories of games that are on the Switch that just shouldn't be. I'm not complaining, I'm just saying that it's weird that they're on the Switch. First off, we have the type of game that I feel nobody uses. And that, of course, is tool games. Or I guess just tools. These are the apps that people buy to make their Switch investment more justifiable. We've got fun tool games like Game Builder Garage, where you can make games and learn simple game development. But we also have the tools that aren't supposed to be fun at all, and literally just do things. Like the clock. That's literally it. That's just a clock. This is the best thing Nintendo owners could have before Nintendo Alarmo. We've also got a variety of calculator apps, because people need to know how to calculate. And of course, we've got some really niche tools like this one, the Core Gadget for Nintendo Switch. What? I randomly stumbled across this game at a gaming convention, and as a music producer myself, I just had to know what this was capable of. With this game, you can create music, write notes on the touchscreen, and place notes to make a melody. You can also use the Joy-Con gyro controls to change the pitch of some sounds, and of course the volume and level of sounds as you mix, because there's a whole mixing thing in here. But hey, let's not forget, this game also has local multiplayer. While fun and accessible, the app lacks full touch controls and external keyboard and mouse support, limiting its efficiency and really slows down how fast you can make a song, especially compared to some free apps we have out there like GarageBand. Ultimately, it's more for those casual music producers that only have a Nintendo Switch, more than a serious music production tool. But speaking of wanting a mouse and keyboard, we have to look at games that have jumped from PC to the Nintendo Switch. The first game I thought about here was actually Five Nights at Freddy's, the Core Collection. This has like 5 separate Five Nights at Freddy's games on it, and I've played them all. That's not a flex, I'm just stating. These were all point and click games that required you to drag your mouse from one side of the screen to another. Obviously, you can't do that on the Switch. When you have such a massive franchise like Five Nights at Freddy's, the developers needed to bring it to a console market with as many people as possible, and that's why pretty much every FNAF game is on Switch. They had to do some interesting things to get them running on this console, like include button controls, and in my opinion, they're better than the mouse and keyboard the traditional games got. And heck, they even made the game's touchscreen to resemble the mobile ports these games got. But with most of the FNAF games on Switch, the touchscreen is incredibly finicky and definitely not worth using at all. There's also a variety of performance issues. I would know because I played them all, that I even wrote a song for in this video. You can check it out after this though. There are just some technical things that didn't work properly. Like some assets in the game just weren't scaled on the Switch, and the performance, especially in Sister Location, ruins it because it does a frame spike before you even get jump scared, leaving the whole jump scare pointless. Not that I care, because I hate being jump scared. FNAF isn't the only PC game ported to Switch. There are also so many more, like Terraria, which has some massive control differences and gameplay changes made to be more seamless on this platform. Now, I do believe that these games do benefit from being on Switch, but there are just some glaring things that just didn't work that well. So as much as I'm happy to see them here, they probably just shouldn't have existed. But another bunch of really bizarre games on the Switch are these sports games. Not the Mario sports games or like family sports games, but the more graphically advanced games like NBA or FC Soccer. You might be asking why I'm saying such silly things. Games are games, right? Well, no, not in this case. A lot of these games, like FC25, aren't even updated to the latest version like we see with the console or PC versions. They're stripped back versions with updated rosters, no new gameplay enhancements or even additional modes like other versions get for the same price. Like, what even is that? And the NBA games, same thing. It's a stripped back version, but also if you look at the back of the box, this is one of the, if not the biggest games I've ever installed on my Switch. Why is it so massive? Let's not forget about the performance of these games as well. Generally, they're 30 frames per second and have some crazy frame dips. So yeah, not the place for these big sports games, and don't even get me started about the monstrosity of the banned WWE 2K18 game, which was completely broken from the beginning. But our next category of games that maybe should have skipped this generation are VR games. Now you might be thinking, the Switch doesn't support VR. Well, actually it does. And I'm not even talking about the Nintendo Labo VR, which was just an odd time to be on this earth. I'm talking about the VR games that got ported to the Switch. Once again, the first thing that comes into my mind is Five Nights at Freddy's, because my brain is completely destroyed. Specifically, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. This game was made with the intention of playing in VR, but for those who don't have a headset, they made it playable with a controller so everyone can play. The problem with this was that the game was not made for Switch, and they had to make some serious graphical downgrades, like the resolution being extremely low and the frame rate being under 30 frames per second the entire time. Also, there's like way too much motion blur on this game, like what even is this? And then sometimes it's just gone. Who put this on Switch? Another popular VR game that made its way to the Switch is one called Super Hot. While it doesn't have nearly the same performance issues reviews as help wanted, it still has performance issues nonetheless, and probably should have just stayed on PS4 or VR. That game is really fun on VR though. Next we have a category that I literally can't even believe I'm saying right now. Let me just say, I love that these games are on Switch, but should they be? We have to talk about PlayStation games on Switch, with the first one being MLB The Show, a baseball game. Doesn't fill the Mario Slugger shaped hole in my heart, but it's still baseball. You might not have even realized that this was a PlayStation game, but look right there. It says PlayStation right on the box art. This is met with similar gripes I had with the previous sports games I talked about, but the main game we've got to talk about is Horizon. They brought this game to Switch. I can't even believe I'm saying this. This is a franchise that PlayStation created for PlayStation consoles. Now, they've slowly been releasing their games on PC, so it makes sense that they're branching out, but for a first-party PlayStation IP to be available on Nintendo feels like I'm in a fever dream. So much so I needed to buy it on Switch. I recently gotten into this series with the Horizon remaster on PS5. Oh, and I should also clarify that they're not bringing the actual Horizon games, they're bringing LEGO Horizon Adventures, the LEGO adaptation of the series, which is odd enough. But I think they brought this to the Switch mainly because it's a LEGO game. They wanted to introduce a younger audience to the series on a platform with almost 150 million units sold. I don't blame them, but I'll definitely be interested to see if PlayStation brings more of these games on the Nintendo Switch successor. Now, we talked about PlayStation games on Switch, but what about Xbox games on Switch? One of the most notable examples is Cuphead. While it isn't technically a Microsoft-owned title, it was initially exclusive to Xbox consoles and PC. Seeing it on Switch was a pleasant surprise, and honestly, it fits perfectly on the platform. The retro art style and tight gameplay feels right at home here. But what really threw people off was seeing Banjo and Kazooie on Switch. This was a nostalgic move, since the game originated on Nintendo 64 before Microsoft snatched up Rare. Now, it's available on Nintendo Switch Online, and I get it, it's a love letter to the longtime fans. But let's be real, the Xbox versions of these games are superior, with better performance, widescreen support, and even visual enhancements. If you're going for the best experience, the Switch version isn't it. Then, of course, there's Minecraft, a Microsoft-owned franchise that's literally everywhere, including probably your fridge. What's weird is having to log into your Microsoft account on a Nintendo console, and same goes for Pentiment and, of course, Grounded, which I did a video on, and it's just weird. Having to sign into your Xbox account just doesn't feel right. Now let's talk about board games on the Switch. I have a ton of them. Monopoly, Uno, Battleship, even Mousetrap. But you know what? I can never convince anyone to play it with me. Playing board games is supposed to be an in-person event, filled with yelling, laughter, and the sweet satisfaction of flipping a board when you lose. Digital versions strip away all that physical chaos. Sure, they're convenient, you don't have to set anything up, and you'll never lose a piece under the couch. But the experience is pretty hollow. It's like playing Monopoly, but kind of with a robot. It's hard to flip tables and make side deals. That said, these digital versions do have their moments, like during the pandemic, or if you're in a long-distance relationship. It's a lifesaver for staying connected with friends. But now it's just hard to care when the excitement of shoving fake money in your friends' faces is gone. But in comparison to the next category, board games aren't looking as bad. I'm of course talking about first-person shooters on the Nintendo Switch. Let's start with Fortnite. While I'm definitely happy it's playable and I've played it from time to time, especially on this channel because I do stupid things, like, you know, playing it for 24 hours. I've learned a lot about this game, like how the textures are super blurry, the resolution is laughable, and the draw distance, if you're lucky, you can see an enemy before they're in your face. It's like playing the game through smudged glass. While again it's playable, the competitive nature is pretty much gone. It's just hard to take this version seriously on the Nintendo Switch with how bad it is. The frame rate is capped at 30 frames per second, and very often it goes under that. So it's just not good for a first-person shooter like this, even though technically it's a third-person shooter, but you get it. Then there's Apex Legends, which somehow manages to look and perform even worse. The realistic art style doesn't help either. It just highlights how poorly optimized this game is. Low resolution, constant frame dips, it's all here. And while Overwatch technically runs better, it still doesn't hold a candle to its console and PC counterparts. Playing competitive shooters on Nintendo Switch seriously is like planning to lose. I don't know, it's just not good. Now, of course, kart racers are a dime a dozen on the Switch. For every gem like Crash Team Racing or Disney Speedstorm, you've got a flood of mediocre ripoffs. The Nickelodeon Kart Racer series is a prime example. The first game didn't even bother with voice acting, which is a crime when you've got characters like SpongeBob and Patrick. And let's not forget about the performance issues. Low resolution, laggy controls, and uninspired track design make these games a chore to play. And then there's the truly baffling stuff like Garfield Kart. Yes, this exists. And no, it's not ironically fun as you would hope. At this point, it just feels like every franchise is trying to cash in on the Mario Kart formula, which I can't blame. That is like the best-selling game on the Switch and continues to sell over and over again. But if you're gonna make a kart racer, make it good. Oh, also there's one with Shrek. And now, of course, some of the worst ones, code and box games. What even is this and why do I have so many Fortnites? These are physical cases that don't include a cartridge, just a download code code inside. They usually cost more, don't go on sale as often, and can't be resold or shared. And yet, my collector brain can't resist them. Maybe it's time to seek some therapy. These games are obviously marketed towards parents or impulsive buyers who see them in stores and think, oh, this will make a great gift, or I really want to play this today. And I get that, but deep down, I just feel like these are all glorified advertisements. But still, seeing Fortnite Transformers pack, it's hard to walk away, even though it's basically a scam. So that was 10 categories of bizarre games that are on the Switch. Can you think of any that just shouldn't belong here, or do you disagree with me? If you want to see me use the Nintendo Alarmo for 7 days straight, click this video. It actually gets weird. Please consider becoming a channel member and subscribing and liking if you liked it. Thanks for watching. I've seen the next one. See you later.